Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Poured silver? Heck, let's move to 3D printed silver. Yes, technology is a wonderful thing, and in fact, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correctly, there is a member of this community who is at least partially doing some of this already. So this is quite an interesting article here, and this is from All3DP. It's about 3D printing silver to get. So it's a very interesting publication here from All3DP, and it says silver. Sure, it's beautiful, but you can't really 3D print it, or can you? So this is talking about different ways and techniques for 3D printing silver. So the article goes on here. You can see this picture of some lovely rings here. Some of these pieces look like they could have been lost wax created or perhaps cast, sand cast, Delft clay. There's all different styles and methods. In fact, many in this community have explored various different ways and produced some amazingly intricate, detailed pieces. In theory, the ability to 3D print silver sounds wonderful. After all, the precious metals often used to make jewelry, which could always benefit from complex shapes and designs. Despite that, metals like silver are much harder to print than thermoplastics like PLA. Nevertheless, there are several processes through which 3D printing silver can be done successfully, both at home or through a professional printing service. But hold on, if you're just here to get a single part printed in silver, head on over to CraftCloud, a 3D printing and price comparative services from All3DP, and you'll find the best price and provider benefiting professional service. So it's an advertising, obviously, for their company, but the explorer of 3D printing silver moves on here with the several different methods here. Deposition printing is the first type. Currently, there are no methods of directly 3D printing silver using an FDM 3D printer. I'm not sure what FDM is, the technology, I guess that's maybe a way, like for instance, you know how the plastics they do it. It takes a lot of heat, obviously, to do silver, so to actually digitize it as a 3D printed model is not possible. Despite companies like the Virtual Foundry offering several metal-infused filaments to print from, silver currently isn't one of them. Of course, there are indirect methods of using FDM printed to create silver objects, such as lost wax or lost PLA casting, which we'll discuss later. But in terms of directly printing, it is possible to 3D print with metal clays that come in silver. These need to be sintered in a furnace after printing to remove the substrate and leave the solid silver part. The MIDI Metal Maker is an example of a machine that claims to be able to print in these metal clays. Unfortunately, there's no way to buy this machine, but its maker did write a book on how to make one yourself. That's pretty interesting. And there's a book on Amazon to make your own MIDI Metal Maker. The cost of the book, along with creating your own printer, may run you a few $100s, depending on the parts used and the amount of clay you choose to print with. That's pretty interesting. So the accessibility means acquiring requires experience with using a kiln and building a 3D printer. Although the 3DP has not directly tested this method, videos suggest that the MIDI Metal Maker is capable of printing similarly to those syringe-based 3D printing systems. Now there's a second method here, and that is utilizing the direct metal laser sintering. I think I'm pronouncing that right. DMLS. And here you can see a lady with a necklace with some pieces here. Direct metal laser sintering, or DMLS, is a 3D printing process that uses lasers to fuse metal powder together layer by layer to make a fully metal part. This process allows these steps. To me, that sounds like direct 3D printing on a piece of silver. A 3D printable part is designed in 3D modeling software. In the printing process, a layer of powder is first flattened over the printable area. Then 3, a laser beam selectively sinters the object's first layer in the bed of powder. The process repeats itself in step 4, with a new layer of powder being spread atop the previous layer, which is again selectively sintered. The 5th part is that the final part is removed from the powder, and a cleaning process, usually sandblasting or compressed air removal of excess metal powder, is performed before the part is put into use. Despite the advantage of being able to directly 3D print a metal end-use part, DMLS machines are extremely expensive, starting at around $100,000 for a base model. I think that leaves most of us out of this. This is the technique. In addition, the fine powder used in these machines is dangerous to breathe in. Another strike against it. So safety considerations like gloves, eyewear, and an appropriate method of recapturing the metal dust are required. Nevertheless, there are print-on-demand options where you can send your part to 3D printed with DMLS technology for a fee, as we'll see in a later section. Many custom jewelry companies use DMLS technology to create silver rings and other jewelry. Human Interface Jewelry, a company based in New Zealand, creates unique jewelry such as a ring with movable parts integrated into the design. So the price would be about $1,000 per kilogram, fluctuating depending on the price of the metal powder at the time. It should be noted that a large amount of this cost comes from post-processing. The accessibility of DMLS is not a very accessible method for 3D printing in silver, owing to the fact that DMLS machines themselves are so expensive, and they are typically not owned by individuals, and big companies often contract out their silver DMLS manufacturing rather than invest in an in-house system. The performance, unlike lost PLA casting, DMLS can achieve a Z resolution of 38 microns or less, and thus is good for intricate parts. Number 3 is lost waxed casting, lost PLA casting, which is what I think it's Silvermac, and there may be 1 or 2 others that have ordered or have a 3D printer that can make these molds for this stuff. Lost wax casting is a process of creating a wax mold of an object to cast a metal version of the object. The process has been used for a long time, with significant leaps having been made in recent history. For example, it's now possible to transition from wax casting to lost PLA casting, which has given rise to much more complex castable parts. So in lost PLA casting, the lost PLA casting is nearly the same process as lost wax, except for the PLA is used in place of the wax. Since nearly every FDM 3D printer can print in PLA, extremely intricate objects can be 3D printed and cast. The method involves the following steps: design an object in 3D modeling software, then use the PLA object to create a plaster mold. Then, once the plaster mold has dried, put the mold into a kiln and burn out the PLA material and leave a void. 4. Once the PLA has been removed, pour liquid metal into the mold to create your silver object. 5. Once the object and mold have cooled, you can remove the plaster and cut away the spews. Tubes of metal allowing you to pour the metal in the object. Sanding and polishing for object for use. And then once the process is done, you should have a silver part with the same properties as a raw silver would have. Should be noted that technique can lead to shrinkage of the part and loss of small features, so the compensation for that during the design of the object may be needed if you need dimensionally accurate parts. And actually I experienced that with the silver teeth that Scully made for me. Since we're talking about silver, one usually has jewelry in mind, so pay attention to ring sizes and fit. The price, much of the cost is up front, with kilns costing hundreds or even thousands of dollars in terms of the molding and printing process. The main recurrent costs come from the cost of the raw material and the cost of the plaster and the PLA parts. The plaster and the PLA will cost very little, under $20, unless you're trying to make something big. It requires uses of kiln and experience when casting to get the best results. In terms of the accessibility, the performance resolution object can be printed with features as small as 20 microns, but casting may lose small features, and it may not be useful to print anything with features smaller than 100 microns. Then the 3D printing service. So you can, alternative methods, you can send it out to a 3D printing service that's out there. So that's involves something I would probably do, which means that one of you who do pouring may want to consider option number 2 up there, which I think some have explored that possibility, 3D printing molds. Have an external company to get your model printed in silver. There's three different ones there. 3 different 3D printing using DMLS is possible. And then there's Craft Cloud, which I think is the L3DP sponsor there. But very interesting indeed. Post your thoughts. It's amazing to see how technology is utilized with metals that have been around for thousands of years, silver being one of those metals. And to directly print on silver 3D, I don't think we're quite there yet, but close with some of these. But very interesting indeed. Post your thoughts below. We'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching. And remember that I do post videos every day. If you don't get a notification or see it in your subscription fee, which lately, as this continues to be a case, I do lose subscribers. And I think that some of those are probably spam or dummy accounts or what have you. But others, I think, have noted that they've been kicked off the subscription list from time to time. Otherwise, I want to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.